Hello, and welcome to yet another episode of the Back to the TARDIS podcast, the podcast where we take a look at every single episode of the 2005 revival of BBC's Doctor Who. I'm Jeff.
I'm Skylar.
And returning just in time for me to die again, Avery.
Topical.
And this week, we are discussing Series 5, Episode 3, Victory of the Daleks by Mark Gatiss. He's back, boys. Also, on an unrelated note, before we start our discussion of this week's episode, I'd just like to say that last week was our 50th episode, and I totally fucking forgot to mention it on the air. Just completely forgot. So sick. We've done 50 of these. We're now doing the 51st. Thank you for sticking around and listening to us talk about Doctor Who episodes for God knows how many hours.
It's a deep cut for the true fans. They'll have recognized it.
Yeah. Anyways,
the people who are really caught up on the lore.
Anyways, this episode pisses me the fuck off. And I think that's because there is a genuinely interesting setup that is completely ignored and squandered. Because you think Winston Churchill, the World War II Daleks, and at least from my brain, what I would think would be really good setup is Winston Churchill, known Tory and kind of a racist shitbag, actually. What if he, to fight the Nazis, because he is, in many ways, the opposition to the Nazis was more political, and because they were attacking the British, than anything to do with fascism, anti-fascism. And basically just using these fascist killing machines as an attempt to defeat the Nazis, and the interesting commentary on that. And instead it doesn't do that. It goes with Churchill being portrayed as someone who wants to end the war by any cost, but got hoodwinked into this. And as soon as the Daleks reveal their master plan 15 minutes in, it immediately goes to like, woo, pew pew, Dalek action, woo, there's new shiny Daleks, woo, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, I can count the positives of this episode on one hand.
2 fingers.
And all of them, basically, are introduced in the first act, and then, with one exception, don't go anywhere outside of the first act. I will say, and I said this to you earlier on in the week, Jeff, that I give this episode some credit for being the only episode of Eleven's tenure where he emotionally treats the Daleks like how he should. And I suppose also props for recognizing the late era RTD canon with Planets in the Sky. I forgot they like name dropped that in that episode. That was cool. But like, aside from the premise and like, everything after the first act, after the reveal, it's just downhill from there. And I couldn't even bring myself to be pissed off, because I was just like, it bored me. The plot after the Daleks reveal themselves makes little to no sense, and you could argue that Churchill's portrayal is, inaccurate / offensive, and I think you could make that argument, but also, like, I've seen way more effort put into fictional media trying to jack Churchill off, so this didn't really even do that for me. I was just like, okay, like, this is just here, and that's kind of sad, because the first act shows promise. But yeah, it's just here.
Yeah, it wasn't even just like the lionized Churchill, it was badly done lionized Churchill.
Yeah. He's a walking, like, cliche. Like, with the first scene where he's, like, walking around and interacting with everyone after the Doctor lands is fucking painful.
Yeah, it's like I was watching someone.
It's
I know this came
Shakespeare
way
Code
before.
levels of painful.
Yeah, it's like it's somebody who watched. This is obviously way later, but it's somebody who watched Dunkirk and was like, "I want to do that," but had no idea what the hell they were doing.
I can't believe they got
Yeah.
Nixon more right than Churchill. Actually, I probably could believe that, but it was just like, wait a fucking second. What?
Yeah.
It was just really awkward and poorly done. I would say the only real good part of this episode is 11. He has a couple very good scenes, but beyond that, it's literally just it makes absolutely no sense. One thing I will say about this episode is I remember we noted that in the first episode of the season there was some like really weird pacing in like around the beginning of the third act, and I think this whole episode had the exact same pacing issues where stuff just like keeps happening over and over and over. Like it just keeps like like the basic idea of what's happening keeps changing again and again and again. It keeps introducing more and more major plot elements, and it makes for a really crowded story from beginning to end. Like I think in most episodes, if you had that sort of reveal of like trying to figure out why are the Daleks here, and then eventually having the reveal, usually it would take about half the episode at least. But in this one, it was literally at around like the 12 or 13 minute mark. And it just felt really quick and forced and awkward. It was literally just like he started shouting at them for like a few seconds, and then immediately it was like, "Oh yeah, we got it. There's the plan. Time for the reveal."
Yeah. It's so... Yeah. It feels like... It almost feels like in points it's like, oh, Churchill episode, and oh, Dalek episode, but also that it wants to do what Rob Shearman did again. But the problem is that Mark Gatiss is, he's a fine writer. He's written some pretty okay episodes. He's a good fluff writer. He's nowhere fucking near as good as Rob goddamn Shearman.
Yeah.
Who, like, I mean, I haven't done every story that he's ever written, and you've experienced even less than I have. But I think you'd agree that the two Rob Shearman stories we have covered on the podcast, Dalek and Chimes of Midnight, are both 10 out of 10s.
True.
So, like, yeah. And it's like, 11's attitude is right, but everything else about the episode is not. And any potential, like, narrative weight or, like, oh, fuck, they're a threat, like, they actually, like, totally punked the Doctor and won, is just completely pulverized by the fact that the episode is fucking garbage. Like, I didn't even remember, like, before I rewatched it this last time, I totally even forgot that they won. I, like, totally forgot how this episode ended because it's just so nothing.
Right? It's bizarre because I think for every point in this episode that I think, like, okay, this does this okay, there's an episode that does it better. I would go so far as to say, and this may not be true because I haven't rewatched the first one, but, like, the two 13th Doctor era Dalek episodes, I would probably say are better than this.
Yeah, they're fucking better than this.
If only because, not even leaving aside the dumb Churchill bullshit, just, like, even without that, it's like, at least it makes sense. Even the whole, like, there's inferior Daleks versus Daleks who think they're pure bullshit is done better. So it's like...
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I guess I'll just say it now, because there's, like, no substance to 90% of this episode.
Yeah, we're not going through the plot on this thing in chronological order. You think I care enough about Victory the fucking Daleks to do a deep dive on it? This episode fucking blows.
Clearly you don't. Yeah, no. I like... So the Daleks, for some reason, and this really isn't touched upon again, are apparently the Institute because they can make a fucking synth that doesn't know they're not a real person. And I would say, like, that would almost be an interesting idea, but they, like, shoehorn it in. and you know you have a problem when the arguable C plot of the episode is the most interesting and, like, grounded thing about it. So I was just sitting there...
Also...
Yeah.
Like a side note, like, this might just be me bitching about stupid canon shit, but that is something that makes sense from the Cult of Skaro, not from some random-ass fucking rank-file Daleks.
Exactly, and it's like, they don't even have the whole... They don't even do this twice, because you could argue that, like, the stupid fucking Dalek sleeper agent drones, the people that get the eye stalks that pop out of their skulls...
Oh, those are terrible, too. I will be spending plenty of time bitching about those when we get to, like, Asylum or whenever the fuck that got introduced, because that was also terrible.
No, yeah, exactly. It's also dumb.
I'm also confused, like, where are these Daleks from? Like, is this... Which story is this continuing?
Does it really matter?
I don't know.
Like, honestly, does it really matter? Like, you could pick pretty much any Dalek story and be like, yeah, a couple survived from that. It doesn't really matter at this. It's not like RTD continuity anymore. Yeah, I mean, hell, even the Daleks from Stolen Earth just kind of popped up out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And I'll just go off on, like, plotting incongruities, because that's honestly all we have left. The fucking progenitor does not recognize these Daleks because they're not pure enough or bullshit or, you know, whatever. Okay, sure. Maybe they tested the reality bomb so much that they lost DNA. Whatever the fuck. It doesn't matter. But yet... So they need the doctor to say, you're Daleks, which, you know, is dumb. But sure, they do that. It works. They clone Daleks, which then for some reason they're able to build shiny new Technicolor suits for them. Okay, let's also move past that. Then, even though the Doctor recognized them by their own words as true Daleks, they were still like, oh yeah, you're genetically inferior, and killed them anyway. So it's like, okay, so they're not, yet the machine worked. So it's like, and I know I'm spending way more thought than this deserves, but it just goes to show that, like, really, I think they tried to be innovative and yet didn't know what the fuck else to do. And instead of doing a historical where the whole episode is, like, the Doctor trying to figure out what the fuck these Ironside things are about, like, that probably would have been derivative, but at least that would have been, like, coherent. And, like, something the Daleks would do, probably, to fuck with him. But then this just goes the whole extra mile of trying to be like, oh, this is the new era of Dalek. Meanwhile, we see the progenitor Daleks, I think, a grand total of one time after this. And then they're never seen for the rest of 11's era, or 12's era at all. Paradigm. So, you know...
Yeah, because people fucking hated him, so they stopped using him. Can I just say... The other thing is, I'm not going to say this garbage episode should have been a two-parter, but it hard suffers from 45-minute syndrome of, like, it is juggling way too many things that cannot be adequately explored within 45 minutes.
Oh, absolutely. It sucks.
Like, maybe if it was a two-parter, it would have been able to explore all of the things a little bit more. Kind of like, think about, like... I mean, a lot of people hate Daleks in Manhattan, too. I actually thought it was a lot better than I think a lot of people give it credit for. But, like, imagine that episode as a single episode. That would fucking blow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With this one, just, even the design is so silly. I don't know if you noticed, but the orange one had, like, a caboose.
Yeah. No, here's the thing. Here is the thing. My problem with the new Paradigm Dalek design has nothing to do with the colors. It feels like a throwback to the 60s era, where admittedly they weren't all as brightly colored, but, like, they also weren't metal. And, you know, you had, like, the ones that were gray with, like, the blue, like, orb thingies, and then you had the ones that were white, and then you had some that were black in the 80s, etc. That's not a problem. I also don't have a problem with their increased size. I think it's a little bit silly, but whatever. I guess it's to, like, maybe fit better because, like, Matt Smith and Karen Gillan are both pretty tall and gangly. And from what I understand, the original new series Daleks were made to be Rose height. And I also don't even necessarily have problem with the idea of like, okay, we're going to reboot the Dalek line. We've had enough of these Time War Daleks. Let's take this in a bit of a different way. Even though, personally, I think the Time War Dalek design is the best Dalek design by far, and other redesigns would be kind of unnecessary. No, the problem is that they look cheap as shit. They look like I could take like a fucking hammer and hit it, and it would be plastic and it would shatter. They look cheap.
I just thought of something hilarious. It's like these, supposedly, like these are like the Daleks' future. They're pure Dalek DNA, which who even knows what the fuck that means? That, you know, whatever, doesn't matter. But they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna bring the Dalek Empire to new heights. Meanwhile, the next time we see them, they run a Dalek parliament. So apparently, the whole progenitor Dalek race, the whole new improvement for them.
Let's not get started on Asylum of the Daleks is bullshit. That episode fucking blows too.
No, but I don't know. It's just amusing to me that it's like, this is the next stage of our evolution, and then they invent liberal democracy, but for Daleks. That's...
Proof that neoliberalism is basically just fascism with extra steps. Thanks, Moffat.
And appropriately with
Personally,
a new code of
I would have...
But... God.
I would have voted for the Dalek Labor Party.
Also, apparently they're all like... Apparently each of them does a different thing, which this is the first time I like ever cared to pay attention.
Oh, I've heard of that,
to the Dalek speech. It's like the white one is like Central Command, which, yeah, you make your white people jokes here. They're all good. But like... each one does something different, but they don't say which one. So it's just like, okay, I guess blue does some different shit, and then orange.
Yeah.
There's an orange one? Okay, fuck it. Why not?
I remember reading about that.
I don't mind that in
like,
principle. Yeah.
I remember reading about that in some like Doctor Who lore book or whatever that I had when I was younger, but I don't remember which was which.
Yeah.
It would be really funny if they just used the Star Trek colors.
Yeah. No, I don't mind that idea in principle, especially because they're not the Cybermen, so they're not for complete uniformity. They are about genetic purity. So I can understand them having different roles, and I don't even have a problem with those roles being denoted by the paint of the exterior shell. It really all falls back to the fact that it looks like video game controller clamshell plastic. Like, it looks like the kind of plastic that you get on the fucking Xbox One controller. On the white one.
You ain't wrong.
It looks like
it looks like
today.
Yeah. It looks like I could get a hammer from the utility room that is like 10 feet from where I record and hit it with the hammer and it would shatter.
No, yeah,
they look like they were made to be made into McDonald's Happy Meal toys.
Yeah. No, they were totally made for toys too. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
My point wasn't even that the roles are dumb. It's that they chose to do that in a throwaway line and not have any of the Daleks do anything except for the central one. And also those roles never matter again. It's like... Yeah. I don't know, the vibes felt like this could potentially be like the Cult of Skaro on steroids, but obviously that didn't happen.
No, they were clearly setting up for something. They just shelved it because everybody rightfully said this episode was fucking poo-poo stinky garbage. So they were like, okay, that's it for the Paradigm Daleks.
I have to think that like every element of this that's like semi-tolerable is just, and this is going to be weird to say, but it's probably just because of like the groundwork Moffat already laid. Because 11 isn't flanderized yet. Yeah. Amy stays okay.
Definitely.
The arc
Amy acts fairly realistically throughout this, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, and the arc about like memory and the crack stays, you know, effective as like a small mystery box thing. But it's just everything surrounding the actual meat. It's like it's like if Moffat was just like, okay, here's the vague outline, you know, do your thing. I know you'll do good. And then Mark Gatiss was like, you know. But yeah, I have nothing else really to say of substance. Bracewell is the only thing unique to this episode that is anywhere remotely interesting, and
even then, that resolution, like, okay, the ending scene where he's
is
like,
horrible.
"Oh yeah, you're well, no, okay, it wasn't not the ending scene, not like the scene that you're thinking of. I'm thinking about specifically the part at the very end where he's like, "Yeah, I'm assuming you guys are gonna turn me off," and like 11.
That part
and
was
Amy,
also very bad.
I like that, honestly.
I thought it didn't make any sense to me. Like,
because he was made by the enemy.
Well, no, not like his behaviors. Why the doctor and I got brain fog. Amy didn't just tell him like, "Nah, dude, you're okay." I don't get why they had
probably
to like, make that.
No. I think it's because Churchill would have had him shut off, and they're trying to be like, no, dude, it's okay, you can go. Like,
yeah, it's like that plausible deniability shit. It's like, oh yeah, we'll be right back, and we'll do that, right then and there. It's weird because this is a trope that sticks around to this day. The Mandalorian season 2 has an episode where this exact fucking thing happens.
Yeah. It doesn't make any sense though, because Churchill already had his line about how he doesn't care if he's a man or a machine as long as he's on their side.
Well, I forgot. That is the only good line that he has. I forgot about that line.
Yeah, but also isn't that at the same time that he's about to explode?
No, that's earlier.
Okay.
It's when they're trying to convince him not to set the
That's why the thing.
Okay, but Churchill may have changed his mind after finding out that he's like just straight up a machine and could totally explode at any point.
That's like not in the text at all or anything. It's just
that's true. Listen, that's the part of the resolution that I was fine with. Let's all agree instead that we can bitch about how like cliche, dumb, and unearned the power of love shit was.
Oh, absolutely.
That part's fucking stupid.
It doesn't even make like they don't even try to like justify it. It just is a thing that happens.
Yeah, it was the one part of the overall arc that I was just like, hey, have you ever fancied someone you didn't? And I was like, fuck, no, Amy, now's not the time. Also, this is like the only mention
they didn't
of
even take that setup to go with the gay robot payoff. SMH.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's also admit that the thing with the planes was also just...
Oh, yeah, no, that was also terrible. That was awful.
That was so incredibly...
Was that supposed to be, like, Independence Day? I've never seen Independence Day. Is that supposed to be what that was?
I have no idea.
This is supposed to be the fact that the Daleks are the Institute from Fallout 4, and he just invented X-Wings. That's what that scene is.
There's so much
bad.
Just like, I try, we try not to be too bitchy about lore, but come on. You're telling me World War II fighter planes were able to get into space of like...
Yeah, less
2
importantly,
minutes.
not that the planes couldn't have done it, but that the planes were able to be retrofitted to be able to do it in as short amount of time as they had.
And not only that,
because they say they have 5 minutes, and they must have done it within a minute, launched, gotten to space within 2 minutes, which would make them faster than modern shuttles, and then somehow they're able to go blow to blow with a Dalek warship with a World War II technology, not to mention firing bullets in space somehow.
Yeah, no, like they say, like the only reason the Daleks like still win is because they like totally like run, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, let's not even forget that let's say the planes can do all this. Let's grant you that. These are still pilots from World War fucking II that have only flown planes in atmosphere. But suddenly they're able to be like, oh yeah, I'll just fly back to Earth. See you down there, Doctor.
Yeah.
Descends.
They're
and
just okay with that. Also, how would a plane steer in space? What is it steering against?
I think
God.
I think in a throwaway line he says that they're like flying in pockets of air, but that's still...
That's even fucking stupider. That's so dumb.
I didn't say it made it better. I said I think someone said something once.
Well, yeah, it's like they're in gravity bubbles, so I'm presuming they're in air. But it's like, how would you maneuver through that air?
Yeah, as I said, when this episode tries to go like sci-fi instead of, hey, the Daleks are like a fascist allegory, you know, like that's when it goes off the rails. And I don't know, we've been talking about how ludicrous it's been for like 90% of this whole thing, and yet somehow it's still just kind of boring to me. Like it didn't even manage to be bad.
No, but that
in an interesting
that being
way.
said, still, I think Mark Gatiss's episodes are mostly just passable. Like, they're fine most of the time, and then this one is just genuinely fucking bad. And also, like, I think this might be... I don't know if it's, like, I hate it more than I hate the Shakespeare Code, but it's definitely, like, the most negative I've been about an episode since we had the Shakespeare Code episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I have no evidence for this, but I wouldn't be surprised if he had a script for something and then was just kind of told to make it a Dalek episode because they need the Dalek episode.
Yeah, we have the contract with Terry Nation's estate. They have to show up once a year.
Yeah, because if this was like a... And again, maybe this is all BS, because the Daleks are like pretty baked into the plot, but I don't know, just considering the fact that like he hasn't touched them before or since, and just has kind of done like B-level, C-level, like action type stuff.
He either does his original shit or Ice Warriors.
True. But yeah, I have nothing else to say. It's a decent D.
Yeah.
That's my rating. I don't even have a preamble.
We've just run out of shit to say, man. It's just bad.
It sucks.
Yeah. Ratings time, I guess. We've just spent the last like half an hour talking about how fucking bad it is. D. It's nuts. Like 2 out of 10.
Yep, D. Solid D.
Yeah, it's a 2 out of 10 for sure. It's even worse than it's about as bad as the Shakespeare Code.
Yeah,
I'd say the Shakespeare Code was more offensive, but
Shakespeare Code was more offensively bad, but this one is just kind of just actually bad.
Yeah, I would say there were more actual story elements to the Shakespeare Code that made sense, and that sort of balances out with how horrifically bigoted it was to bring it to the same level of horribleness as this episode.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So yeah, next week we will be covering The Time of Angels, Flesh and Stone, Return of the Angels, and Moffat 2-parter. I also think now that I'm not going to be as horrifically busy, not that week because we'll be covering a 2-parter, but no, I don't know. At some point soon, I do want to get back to doing bonus episodes. I've just been horrifically busy during the week and haven't really had time to commit to more, but I want to watch some more 7th Doctor stuff with y'all, definitely. So hopefully we'll get around to that at some point. Yeah. Until then, I'm Jeff. You can find me on Twitter at WheatleyDL and on Twitch at WheatleyDLT. Don't fucking watch this episode. This might be the shortest episode we've ever done just because of how awful this one is that we can't even really...
We gotta wrap it up quick and we'll make it in time.
Yeah, as a prominent YouTube critic would say, this episode is not good. My name is Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, because fuck you, this episode doesn't deserve a good joke. And you can follow me at skyhigh9_5 on the twitter.com.
And it's your bitch, Avery, and you can follow me at Fat Dick Demon.
And we will see you all next week.